So you've just started playing War Thunder, and you're not sure which air tree to choose. Well, let me recommend you why the American air tree is the best possible air tree in this entire game. So your first two reserve aircraft are the P-26 and the BF-2C-1. Both of these aircraft are good, fairly nimble fighters with at least some ground attack capability. But before you join any matches, I'd recommend focusing your research on the P-36A. Now, I'd recommend starting out with air arcade battles for four main reasons. First off, you can respawn in another aircraft after you die. Second off, the battles are much more fast-paced and allow you to get straight into action. Third, it shows you where to aim at enemy aircraft to land hits. And lastly, after you run out of ammo, it will come back after a short cooldown. These features are not present in the realistic or simulation modes of War Thunder. I'd recommend gaining some altitude early. This will help you in your later dogfights. See, that's a very good example of what not to do. Head-on engagements are often very dangerous, and especially with this aircraft, you have a bad habit of catching on fire. First-person mode can be useful in this, as you can use this sight to zoom in and see some of your opponents. We'll let our teammate have that one. Oof. I'll recommend that when you're chasing someone, don't always speed up. You want to stay behind them, so you may want to slow down occasionally. Yeah, it's not looking good for me. I'd also recommend taking advantage of bombers such as the B-34. They're very slow, not very nimble, and more often than not, the players that play them are not very smart. But always do watch out for their tail gunners. They can be deadly. And just as a tip, if you need to gain a lot of speed very quickly and you're a decent amount off the ground, then make sure to dive down and gain some speed and then climb up at a somewhat smooth angle. Now, about the tech tree. And I know this is big and imposing, but I'm going to break it down to you in a few simple rules. So this is your light fighters. This is your P-26s, you're kind of light, decently fast, very nimble. This is a little bit more your heavier fighters. So these will typically have large armaments for striking ground troops. This is your naval line, so you'll see a lot of iconic fighters such as the Corsairs and Hellcats here. They're fairly maneuverable, have a decent armament, so they're closely related to these heavier fighters, but they're still very nimble and very good in dogfights like the light fighters. Now this is your strike aircraft line. These have amazing armaments but are not that great for dogfighting. Some good examples of this are especially the SPD-3. It has a really good secondary armament with a lot of bombs and even the choice of carrying heavy machine guns, but it has kind of a bad turn time and it is kind of slow. So especially if you're playing ground realistic, this strike aircraft line is very good to focus on. Now these are your bombers, and I honestly wouldn't recommend playing them. As cool as they look, they are very slow, very sluggish, and you kind of just make yourself a target for everyone in the match.